Welcome to Ask the Expert on Contingent Workforce Strategies LinkedIn Group, the #1 group in the industry for contingent workforce management and total talent management overall. I have a really cool topic today, and it's really focused, although it's focused on kind of talking about staffing platforms, it's applicable to both staffing organizations and organizations hiring staffing firms, or even better, talent acquisition groups looking at direct sourcing and other things to look at efficiencies within their processes. So I have an amazing person to talk about this today. TJ Sehmi from Work Now is here to talk about this, and TJ is an authority in the staffing space. Got over 25 years of expertise and experience in workforce management and technology. He enjoys mastering new technologies, specifically now around artificial intelligence and automation, and the topic of transforming staffing by building a future-ready foundation with data integrity, automation, and AI is right up his alley. So TJ, thank you for coming on today and talking about this. Automation and AI is such a hot topic, so thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me on the show today. I'm really excited to talk about all the things technology here, especially encompassing the staffing industry, and just been in love with it for the last 25 years, seeing the industry evolve on a technology perspective for the last 25 years. And we are reaching a very interesting yet crucial point in tech, especially tech staff for the staffing industry, that I think we'll have a great conversation today about.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome, and thank you again for taking time to chat. It's so much fun having these conversations. It's thought-provoking and important, right? Like a lot of times you get busy in the day-to-day and you forget about taking a step back and thinking about the tools to take 10 steps forward, right? Because you're so busy with the day-to-day. So, to start off though, let's just kind of set the playing field with an overview of the kind of the industry, some of the trends you've experienced and seen, the current landscape. And, I've seen it in my past businesses where, especially if you've been in it long enough, you start off with a certain technology, you maybe move to a next technology, but then you find some point solutions here that you buy, and you end up having multiple systems and very disparate systems that may or may not talk to each other. So what have you seen? Is that kind of what you're seeing out there? And what are some of the emerging needs for some of that technology to be integrated better?
It's a very interesting question. So if we go back to 25, 30 years, at least in the 90s when I got exposed to the staffing tech, frankly, our pain points and the challenges a staffing agency faces today is no different than what it was 25, 30 years ago. Even though technology has evolved, the players in that field have evolved, but nevertheless, the core operational compliance and growth aspects are still there.
Yeah.
So it's very consistent. But what's very interesting is that I recall the first time I got exposed to staffing tech in general. An average staffing agency, now depending on your size, had anywhere from 6 to 8 different disparate systems within their organization.
Yeah.
So one individual was using an email system, one individual was using a texting system, maybe you had an accounting software behind the scenes, your recruiting software. And if you fast forward that timeline, fast forward 20, 25 years, frankly, a lot of it has still remained the same.
Yeah.
It has, and sometimes it's surprising, but that's usually the evolution of tech, because what does happen is you might have a core process like recruiting that you might you might be comfortable with one system and stick to one system, but there might be point solutions like a specific email system that might come up. For example, MailChimp, when it first came out 10, 15 years ago, everybody jumped on that. And so you will have these evolving point systems that kind of surround the ecosystem of your core business process that you use. So initially, when early 2000, 2005, when the web got popular, cloud-based systems started getting popular, then you had folks, hey, can I get resumes from my website? So that became the point system in terms of you to collect applications and so forth.
Totally.
Fast forward 25 years today, you're kind of in a similar scenario where still staffing agencies are using multiple systems, but there is availability today for you to really focus in and hone in on a single platform. And what I mean by a single platform is where the tech stack allows you to recruit, onboard, match, place, time track, pay and bill, all in a single platform. So what that really enables you to do is, frankly, create a framework of data, of underlying data that's related to each other, that has integrity. And now that does not mean you don't use point systems. There might be point systems out there. For example, AI chatbots that are out there that might be very specific to customer service that you might want to utilize on your website for that type of purposes. You might have texting systems that your marketing department might use, or someone who's responsible for outbound communication for existing employees or sourcing new candidates. So texting systems might exist outside of that core platform. But what I've seen evolve over the last 25 years is more and more agencies have moved towards a single platform. Because once you have a single platform, now you're building upon that platform to be, so it allows you to scale easily, because now you simply, if you do add individuals to your agency, or if you have clients logging in, all that data is in a single repository that allows different folks to view information of how they would like to receive it and when they would like to receive it. But I feel that over the years, the availability of these single platforms, and especially being on the cloud and securely being able to access that information, has definitely evolved over the last 25 years.
Yeah, and the need to integrate as well. So the single platform, but the single platform, I always call it the system of record, right? When those point solutions do need, the new technology is easily integratable on both sides. A lot of the new point solutions come with clean integrations, and often pre-integrations with the systems of records you're talking about, right? And so, you're bang on. You want to reduce the number of systems you're working with and have it in a single platform, or you have a system of record for the single kind of, the data integrity sits in your system of record, so that, and then we'll share out to the point solutions when needed, but it's there, right, in your core system.
That's a great point. And that's the other area that has evolved significantly over the decades, actually, is just API integrations, just plug and play open APIs, because that's exactly what it allows you. So it's, I always look at it as you're driving a car. I've got my engine. That's my core engine that drives my vehicle, right, at the end of the day. But I might change my tires because I just want to go faster, or I'm going, up to the mountains, and now I'm going to change my tires. So that's what really this point of systems really allow you to do. And if you've got a single platform that has this open API capability to rapidly integrate, that just provides so much of value to you as an organization, and really getting that value right off the bat from a point system, instead of, back in the day, the entire double entry of let me enter here, then let me enter information there. All that redundancy is reduced drastically.
Yeah, and that's the modern technology that's out there now,
Correct.
right? And so important. So, thinking about this, if I'm a staffing owner or someone looking to centralize a platform to run either my staffing business, my EOR business, etc., what are some of the best practices? So it's nice to say I want to go to a single platform,
Yes,
and then
yes.
the reality is, how do I get to that so that I can build a platform that is modern for the future of my business to optimize what I need to do? Like, how do I get there? What are some of the steps? Because it's often overwhelming for owners to change, especially when we just talked about it being in the day-to-day, you're placing candidates and you're running your operations. Change is painful to that operation. So, but it's essential because those that have brought technology into their operations are either growing faster, right? Or they're 100 times more efficient because they're doing the same amount of business or more that a 40-person operations used to need with manual processes, and you're automating or using newer technology, and you now have 10 people doing the work of 40, right? So there's such cool things that are happening there that is so important. But how do you get there without being too overwhelmed?
So, there's two schools of thought. And what we've experienced is you you the first school of thought is, I'm a staffing agency owner. I am using multiple systems. And for whatever reason that might be compelling you, you've made a decision that as of, let's say, January 1st, I will be replacing at least 4 out of the 6 systems. And let's assume those 4 systems are in those areas that are core and critical to your functioning of your staffing agency. Let's go with that. In those type of agencies that feel that they're comfortable making that switch, you can literally then, your implementation cycles tend to be a little bit longer because your discovery phase is a lot longer. There's data migration involved, there's training involved, and so forth. But nevertheless, you could take that approach and say, as of January 1st, these my 4 legacy systems that I'm using will be consolidated into one. And as of January 1st, those 4 systems are out. I've brought the historical information here. Now I'm more productive. Now I can do more with less, and so forth. So that's the first school of thought. And a lot of agencies, frankly, do take that approach. The second school of thought is saying, you know what, let me attack one area first. So for example, time and labor is where my need is as a staffing agency. I'm either a large local or national staffing agency. I've got clients all over the place. Compliance is huge for me. Editing time cards, approving time cards. I've got high turnover. Maybe the best value for me as a staffing agency owner is, let me go ahead and implement my time and labor component and not touch my payroll component and not touch my ATS component.
Yeah.
And let me take baby steps to that. Maybe Q1, let me migrate all my clients over, provided that the timekeeping system can easily communicate via an open API to your applicant tracking system, and I can push hours out to your system.
Yeah.
And then you take a phased approach in Q2, you say, hey, you know what? Now we're comfortable. We're happy. The staff has settled. We've trained. Now let's focus in on the staffing, recruiting, onboarding aspect of the platform. And now let's migrate that. So you could do this in phases that I've seen a lot of customers do as well, with the eventual goal that after 6 months or 3 months, you reach the same end goal game, which is a single platform. So it's how you approach it is frankly up to your appetite for change.
Yeah.
And there's so many other factors, the risk involved, the type of clients involved, the type of industry you're in, the type of internal users you have, how tech savvy are they not? And so there's so many other factors involved, but at the end of the day, you essentially have 2 paths. You can go, hey, January 1st, top 3 modules, let me move these over. And now I'm good to go, or I'm going to take it as a phased approach. Nevertheless, you're ending with a single platform that might do even 80% of your entire operational and needs that you might have.
And I love kind of that phased approach, quite honestly. The more I've learned, big bang is often difficult and then it's risky, not
Yes.
only to your operations, but also to the success of the project because tensions are high and things mess up as they do in all projects. They always do. There's always going to be some bumps in the road. And if it's too many balls in the air that you're trying to handle, i.e., features and functionalities of a system and departments that you're dealing with, it becomes sometimes overwhelming to try to troubleshoot that. There is something to be said of ripping off the band-aid too, though,
Yep.
just going with it and knowing that it's going to be painful for 6 weeks, right? And a bunch of pay cycles. But unfortunately, it's one of those things too that do you want to interrupt your sales and recruitment, your revenue coming in? Do you want to interrupt the pay of people, which you never want to interrupt the
Yep.
payment of your people, right?
Yep.
So taking this phased approach and actually what you said, picking an area where it's not the end of the world if there's some issues and you can get through it pretty quickly and then you phase in the other areas. It's a brilliant approach as well, right?
Yeah, and the best practice that we've seen, once whatever approach as a staffing agency you've taken, whether it's the phased approach or rip the band-aid and let it be, is that now imagine you have a single, at least 70 to 80% of your entire journey of an employee, entire journey of a recruiter, a payroll processor has already been accomplished. Now, how do I take this to the level where technology allows me today? Today is the reason why I say May of 2024 is because AI is evolving so quickly. Every month seems to be a different AI phenomena that comes out. So if as a staffing industry owner, as a business owner in general, you are sitting there and you're saying, look, I have all these AI tools. I hear my friends talking about it, colleagues talking about it. I have all these partners and vendors and everybody talking about it. How do I take AI? How do I use it today in my business? And our answer always is, go back to the basics. Keep it simple. Step one, you've got to have, to a certain extent, a single platform where data integrity is the key
Yeah.
thing. So the flow of data, the relationship of data has to be there. That has to be so solid that because this is going to be your framework that you're going to build analytics upon, automation upon, reporting upon, security upon, and everything in the middle. And especially if you've got third-party integrations coming in as well, at the end of the day, you are the system of record. You've got to ensure data is accurate. So step one tends to be now I've got my single platform. Now I'm building my data integrity, which naturally will come with a single. So now I've got this and I'm thinking, okay, now I've got my internal users trained. There's more efficiency. There's more productivity. How do I now, take it one level up in terms of increasing efficiencies? And that's where automation comes in. Now, automation, as Jeff, we know, we've been around for decades and decades, but building an automation within a single platform is very different from building automation in single systems that you might be using 6 to 8 different systems, because those automations will end within that platform. For example, if you're using an email system and it has some sort of automation capability, it will only automate that email and end right there because that's the extent of that platform. It doesn't go beyond that. When you have a single platform, it allows automation to not only, for example, you've got a requisition from a customer that says, I need 100 temp employees Monday morning. How do I communicate that to the thousands of employees that I have in my database? Well, guess what? Automation will take.
Yeah.
right? So the automation will go out and say, hey, send a text message or a notification that, are you interested in this assignment? Yes, no. So that automation starts from that entire job order process, from the selection criteria to matching, and can even bring it up to the level of saying yes or no and assigning that applicant slash candidate or slash employee, depending on who it is, an employee, to a specific assignment, and they can start working tomorrow morning. And it doesn't end there, because when that individual starts working tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and they punch in, the second automation kicks in, which is like, I'm a payroll processor. I'm dealing with 300, 500, 800, or maybe 200 hourly employees processing through my system. On a daily basis, I'm responsible for making sure people are missing their punches. Or so where does automation play a role there? Well, the automation can easily approve all the time cards that have met certain criteria.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you don't have overtime, if you're not missing a punch, and if you worked according to your shift or your schedule, go ahead and approve it. And that's where automation from a single system differs from individual systems, because automation, starting from recruiting, onboarding, placing, to time tracking, to time approval, time management, it's all one flow. And
Yeah.
that's where really the true value that we see staff agencies, just experience all day long. But it's that step one of turning automation here, then step two, turning automation here, but it's within the same ecosystem.
Yeah, and quite honestly, one thing that came to mind that will help, it's automation, but it's also automation of the notifications based on the business rules too,
Correct.
right? Especially in certain industries, the follow-up, the manual follow-up, to be able to automate as much of that as possible, so you're only dealing with escalations versus, oh, the time isn't in, or, Sue hasn't punched in, or whatever, right? Like the amount of time that is spent on communications that now is automated in all of these steps of the process too is amazing. And ideally you have one system of record that all the business rules are in there to automate, right?
Correct. And there's a complete audit trail, and there should be an audit trail, even though it's automation taking care of the processes, but there has to be tracking of yes, the employee said yes or no. And so let me give you an example. During COVID, we experienced this. Is we saw a spike in no-shows.
Yeah.
So this was where individuals or employees were saying, yes, I'm going to show up tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, but for whatever reason didn't show up. And so I recall 2020, late 2020, building an entire automation around just the no-shows, because there was such painful aspect of your job, because here you are a recruiter, and the shift starts at 6 a.m. and 20% of the folks who said yes never showed up.
Yeah. What do you do
Someone's
next,
got it.
right? Yeah, it would have been you were on your phones trying to get the
Yes,
next
like, where
candidate.
are
So if you
you?
could automate that, not only the follow-up to make sure more get there, but
Correct.
automate the next step. Oh, what do we do next? Let's call the second round of candidates and email out or text out to get the next group of candidate moving without having to be on the cell phone or whatever, with your cup of coffee, trying to get the other 20% to fill those 20% of roles, right? So
Absolutely.
yes.
So automation over the years, as depending on which economic cycle you're going through, COVID was all about talent. I can't find people. I can't, if I do, it's difficult to get them on the job. And fast forward post-COVID, now the emphasis is more back to where it was pre-COVID, which was operational efficiency,
Yeah.
growth. How do my recruiters become more productive? How do I send more, if my staffing agency collects resumes and shares these resumes with the clients, how can I make that entire process more efficient? So we're coming back to the basics of where it should be. Where now the emphasis is more that we see is on compliance as well. I think every year the just the complexity of the compliance that's coming in, especially on a time and labor perspective, and we just, I mean, it is just my heart goes out, frankly, to anybody managing 300 to 500 individuals and ensuring that workers' comp and the wage and labor hour compliance is in place. That's just it's a daunting task. But if you've got a single system, you've got automations, the right automations at the right areas put in, it can truly result in operational efficiencies right off the bat. I mean, these are tangible results you see from like
Yeah,
just
there's the efficiencies, but then there's also the compliance, right? So
Correct.
having the business rules in place when a timesheet comes in, instead of in the past, you'd look at it and say, oh, there's overtime applicable on this. You can build all those into the system. And that's almost table stakes example, but the compliance effort and the manual processes in the past was so time consuming, but also risky. Like a payroll audit these days is painful and generally results in the business owner having to cut a check back or something, right? And so it's really important to have automation in your systems around that compliance. Almost so important, right? Like,
and so to answer the original question of, how do I use AI? So now if you look at, I call it the innovation journey, right, of a staffing agency, which is, I've got a single platform now. I've got a great framework. I have implemented automation in those areas, which I feel comfortable with. Now, AI becomes easier for me to implement. And frankly, then the value of AI is significantly more. Because even AI, these large language models behind the scenes, really rely on data at the end of the day. So, if you've got garbage in, garbage out, the whole saying, right? But if you've got integrity, your data integrity there, you've got defined process there, you bring in then AI only to the areas that you're comfortable with. And so it's almost like a building block. And so if you look at the stages, for me, it's always been build a foundation, build a framework. Within that framework, then build automation. From that automation, and as you know, Jeff, we were discussing earlier, there's a huge difference between automation and AI as well.
yes.
And so they're not the same. And while I think most systems,
thank you for defining that. They're not the same.
they're not the same. While most systems, frankly, have automation built in and they do a great job at it, AI, as of today, which is May, say May of 2024, I believe in the staffing industry, while we do talk about AI and there are some use cases out there, the reality on the ground is that these use cases, I'm beginning to see them now where they provide true value to somebody in the staffing industry using it. Just because I can use ChatGPT doesn't mean it's going to provide me great value for my business. Maybe write me a great email for the correspondence to my customer. But what is that use case for me as a staffing industry leader, owner? How is it truly? And so I think where the industry is today is we're still learning on what the best use cases are.
Yeah.
And some are pretty obvious, candidate matching. And now you've got to take things like legal exposure in terms of any biases built into AI. So you can't simply just go in and say, hey, I'm going to build an AI on matching candidates. Well, so you've got to go through this checklist, right? What's the AI governance there? What is the legality? What kind of exposure are you having? What are some of the mandates you're going to put around AI? What about privacy? Because AI does require for you to send data to a third-party system that's going to, the LLM is going to take that data, make its decision, bring it back, but nevertheless, you're sending data over to a third party, whether that's whatever LLM model you're using. So there's so many aspects to consider before you just, in my opinion, before you get up and say, oh, let me go use AI. I think folks are using it today. I think I know I use it. I know most of the folks I talk to use it. Folks in their organization, some your colleagues, your partners, people are using it. But how do I use it? I think that's probably going to be the next question that we get asked all the time. That TJ, you know what? I know how to use it. I use ChatGPT all day long, but how do I use this within my organization? How do I systematically roll it out? How do I ensure and put the parameters around it that I ensure security? I ensure my employees unintentionally don't do something that we're not meant to do.
Yeah,
So I
and
think that's
having
the
a
next
single
wave.
platform that brings AI into the use cases as they evolve in a very simplistic manner at the right time during that workflow is so essential with the governance model that you've set in one system. When you're using multiple systems that use AI differently, that's where I think there's going to be a lot of compliance issues in the future. Whereas a single platform that is not only data integrity, but the governance around the use of AI is going to be just essential. And then, just thinking from a staffing perspective and the use cases, it would be wonderful to, okay, when I need to do a job description,
Yep.
the client just emailed over 2 lines, write a job description for this
Yep.
2 lines, bang, done in the system, quick, right? Candidate matching, it's a sensitive area because of
Yep.
equity and different compliance issues, but that press a button, get me a short list, right?
Correct.
Then looking at the back office, remember trying to match invoices and AP and like all of these things. AI will make it a lot easier to do a lot of those past tasks that were so manual and time consuming. But it's how you use them, when you use them, to be very methodical and built into the app, right? Like we all joke, we use ChatGPT, but then you're using a different system over here, cutting and pasting and putting it in.
Correct.
Whereas if it's right in the app and you're pressing a button, say, help me out here, bang, it's so much more efficient.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you said it best. I mean, it has to be within, I call it a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Because now you're like, okay, you know what? I'm only turning on this feature for this AI use case. We'll only use it here. There's data governance. There's I know exactly what my exposure is and how I need to use it. So to summarize, it's really the concept of coming to a single platform, creating that foundation, implementing automation, and then using AI where you're most comfortable using as an organization.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like at the end of the day, it's simplified it, but it makes so much sense to do it in that methodical manner and do it within a platform that helps you with the governance all along the way, right? And does it within one platform.
And this doesn't have to be, frankly, this methodology, this approach could be for any system. I mean, we're referring to it as a technology stack, but I mean, sorry, a staffing stack. But it could be a CRM system. It could be, an ERP system. It could be any system because typically the logical steps are the same. It's just the staffing business has its own unique needs and unique requirements that you just want to approach it a little bit different. But on a key technology perspective, the methodology is consistent across.
100%. TJ, I hate that we're ran out of time here because it's always fantastic having these conversations with you. And the best part of this is we've talked about trends and things that are going to be happening in the future. but they're happening now and are rapidly evolving. So I know you talked about May 2024 and you time-stamped it because you know the evolution is going to happen so
It's
fast.
coming.
But thank you for taking the time out of your day and chatting about this. It's such an important topic. And I think, as we've had a little bit of a pause in the industry, because when we were going great guns, you just kind of are focused on your operations. Now that we have a little bit more of a take a breath, it's time to think about these key things, right?
It's a perfect time because things are, just said, it's taken a bit of a pause. So, but thank you so much, Jeff, for having me. Great conversation.